What's up, everybody? This is Chris with PatriotPartyNews, and this is episode 6. Sorry, Dan Bongino, but we're not agreeing with you today. So first, I want to talk about this article that I found on LifeZet. It's by David Camioner, and it says, "The possibility of a Patriot Party. There is a history of third parties in this country. Some have been important, others much less so." Then he goes on to discuss which ones he was talking about. "Now another may take stage soon. The Patriot Party, a new grouping of populist supporters of Donald Trump. It would be comprised mainly of the approximately 35% of Republican Party that still support Trump." And then he says he can't believe that Trump didn't announce the party already. And then he says, "Could this party get anyone elected nationwide? No. But they could hold the Republicans hostage in many places and perhaps play kingmaker in 2024. But only if they jettison Donald Trump as a standard bearer. Because of recent events, his brand is destroyed nationally, but its ideas are not." And by it, he's talking about the Patriot Party. "I would not vote for such a party, as populist mobs are not my particular poison, but in a republic they do have their place. Many people feel and do not think. They like their politics, emotion, and cult of personality driven. It smacks of Caesarism. However, as Jesus Christ said about the poor, Matthew 26:11, they will always be with us. If they do not bounce back, then their ideas, some of them good, will consistently be subsumed by his ego. Such a Trumpian party would only be a vehicle for him to wage a war of personal revenge on his political enemies, nothing else." Then there's this interesting tweet from Matt Walsh. "Any talk of Trump 2024 is insane. We don't need to do this all again with a 78-year-old Trump. The movement needs to find a new and younger leader. Forward, not back. It's time for change." I want to stop right there. So what Matt is saying is true. We do need young leaders to head this movement. I don't think the idea of abandoning Trump makes any sense. Trump is the one that opened everyone's eyes, and I'll admit that he's lost a lot of approval after what happened in the Capitol. But to say definitively that he should have nothing to do with the party doesn't make any sense, because we have no idea what's going to come out. It's already been a few days, and we're finding more and more about what happened at the Capitol and that this was a pre-planned attack. Now, some people are saying that it's related to the Boogaloo Boys, and the Boogaloo Boys are anti-government. They never had any support for Donald Trump. They don't have any support for anyone. In fact, there were occasions when the Boogaloo Boys and the Antifa guys were working together. So I don't get... I wouldn't abandon Trump just yet. I would say we need to see what happens, because you have to be respectful and appreciate the man that showed you how messed up everything really was. Anyway, let's continue. He says, "Without him, they could take some congressional districts, certain Senate seats, a governorship or two. The Republicans could not win without them. If the specter of the assault on the Capitol is not something they would have to apologize for and rationalize, with that around their necks, they would have some power. Then fail at the polls. Then be consigned to history's dustbin. So they would have a choice. Have perhaps a strong voice without Trump, or a whimper with him in their cockpit. If such a party comes to pass, their choice will be interesting." So before I go further on into why I disagree with this guy, I want to listen to a small segment from Dan Bongino and show you guys kind of another side of the anti-third party push.
Now, I don't want to get off track because I have a lot of material here and I didn't give Paul any content on this, but it's important. Ladies and gentlemen, a third party in this possible is not technically feasible. I know you don't want to hear that. Someone said, well, why doesn't President Trump start a third party? Let me just explain to you mechanically why, as a strategy, the idea and principle is fantastic. Clearly, as I've said to you 1,000 times, although the Republicans are not the answer to our problems, the Democrats are the cause of all our problems. So you're like, well, I don't want to pick the lesser of two evils. No, I do, because what happens when you don't pick the lesser of two evils is really evil stuff happens. I'd rather delay that. Just checking. There's no principles being exercised in total failure. That's my opinion. You have yours. But the idea that President Trump should start a third party is technically and strategically going to be a disaster. Why? Because, ladies and gentlemen, we're not a parliamentary system.
So what Dan is saying here is the whole lesser of two evils argument. But I would argue that the lesser of two evil argument is exactly why the Republicans are so screwed up. They know that some of us are going to vote for them no matter what because of this lesser than two evils argument. Right? So they don't feel any need to fight for us because we're certainly not going to vote for a Democrat, right? So unless you're ready to start voting for a Democrat, then it is time to think about a different option. So we're going to continue listening to what Dan has to say here, but I just want you to think about that. Like, why would they fight for us if we're not demanding it?
Republicans or Democrats who've built an infrastructure to ice you out. So then what's the problem there? So now you have the two branches of government that are elected at the federal level. The executive branch and the legislative branch. We don't elect the Supreme Court or judges at the federal level. Are only winnable by elections. So you may say, well, why not just run for president as independent? You're not going to win that either.
Okay, so here's another problem with Dan's argument is why would we start with the presidency? Why would we start at the federal level at all? What the Patriot Party needs to do is get some local government, right? You start getting your state houses and your state senates full of actual good conservatives who believe in the Constitution. And then it doesn't matter what the federal government does. I mean, if the sanctuary cities have showed us anything, they've showed us that you can defy the federal government and there's nothing they can do about it. In fact, they can sue to the Supreme Court and still win.
Well, ask Ross Perot, John Anderson. It can't happen. Why? Dan, they could just get the most votes. No, that's not the way it works. You're going to be fighting an entrenched Republican and Democrat, both of which have failed us. That's why I'm suggesting the better strategy is to take over the Republican Party with primaries.
So Dan is saying we should take over the Republican Party with primaries, right? But here's the problem. If we win the primaries, you're still beholden to the same leadership. So once you've won your primary, if you want any money from the Republican Party to help with your campaign for the main election, then you have to follow the party line. And the RNC they're part of the problem. So as long as they're controlling your actual coffers, because the president, he earns a whole bunch of money for his campaign, right? But he doesn't use it all. A lot of that is given to the RNC to help with local elections or smaller Senate elections. So then what happens is now you're beholden to someone else. If we can get away from that altogether, then we'll be good.
You're going to have, so what you would have, say there's a three-way race with the legitimate three contenders, like Ross Perot was before he dropped out and then got back in. He was polling 30% of the vote. Ladies and gentlemen, even in a three-way race, let's say it's 33, 33, 33. Independent, Ross Perot the second, the comeback, the Democrat and the Republican. No one's going to get 270 electoral votes. So what happens then, Joe? It goes to the House of Representatives. And then what happens? You think entrenched Republicans or Democrats?
So this 270 argument has some validity to it, but my argument would be, then why are there ever third-party candidates? Right? I mean, if there's literally no way for you to win, why do it? But they do it every single time. And also, if we just build up the support on the ground level and work our way up, then it's possible. And even if you don't ever have a Patriot Party president, you can have enough constitutionalists in the government to actually make the changes you need. Everyone thinks that the end-all be-all is the presidency, but it's really only a small part of what you actually need.
Where there's no significant third party in the House. You think Republicans or Democrats are going to vote for an independent? It's never going to happen. I'm a strategy guy. I don't get paid. I had a dispute with a friend of mine last night over text. Not a dispute, but we're differing on our opinions on something. He's sending me hopey-changey stuff. Hope is not a strategy. Hope is not a strategy. A strategy is a strategy. Why not use a primary system to fund actual constitutional conservative candidates?
All right. So hope is not a strategy. And he's right about that. But also, doing nothing is not a strategy. The idea of primarying all these guys out, this has been done before. The Tea Party had a little bit of success. But at the end of the day, we still spent trillions of dollars. They really didn't get anything accomplished. So maybe, excuse us, Dan, it's time to try something different. Just saying.
Take over the Republican Party should be ours anyway. And then get a Republican president elected who aligns with our values. Far simpler than trying to rebuild from scratch what we should own anyway. You will never get an independent president. There is no technical way to make it happen because there'll never be a 270 electoral vote majority for a third party in your time.
All right. So that's fair. But, you know, he also said that if you don't get to 270, it goes to the House. Well, if the House is full of congressmen that are a part of the Patriot Party, you absolutely can win. I know, it's a daunting task. But if you don't do something, nothing will ever change. Even if the Patriot Party only serves one purpose, and that's correcting the major Republican Party, that's fine. But if we don't have it, then they'll never make a change. All right, guys, thank you very much for watching episode 6. We were kind of hoping to bring you more information on some craziness that happened this weekend because there's 25,000 troops at the Capitol in D.C. and there's troops all over the nation. But so far, there really hasn't been anything very exciting happening. We also have done a lot of work on the studio that's hidden somewhere in my house, and got some new equipment. We're trying a few new things. We really want to bring you a high quality product. All right, we'll see you next time. Oh, please follow us on Gab at gab.com/PatriotPartyNews. Also, we've just signed up for pocketnet.app, which is a blockchain-based social media site. So we're pocketnet.app/PatriotPartyNews. Give us a follow. The PocketNet is cool because you actually earn crypto as part of your the process, and when people like your posts and they're engaged, then you actually get rewarded for it. So check it out, pocketnet.app. See you later.